But what if the real story is even more incredible? What if the secret to their legendary stand wasn't just courage? The popular story, the one you think you know, is only a piece of the puzzle. The real secret behind Thermopylae is a perfect storm of three elements, a level of tactical genius that was centuries ahead of its time, a shocking betrayal that sealed their fate, and a cultural impact so profound it would echo through eternity and shape the world we live in today. This isn't just the story of how a few hundred men died, it's the story of how they changed the world forever. A lonely mountain pass, a small group of warriors covered in bronze and crimson, standing against a tide of invaders so huge it was said to drink rivers dry. The legend of the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae is a cornerstone of Western history. It's a story of impossible odds, of ultimate sacrifice, and of pure, raw bravery. We've all seen the movies, and we all think we know the legend. The gathering storm. To really grasp the audacity of the stand at Thermopylae, you first have to understand the force it stood against. This wasn't just an army, it was the full might of the Persian Empire, the largest the world had ever seen, and it was bearing down on Greece with one goal: total annihilation. Leading it was King Xerxes. 10 years earlier, his father, Darius, had been dealt a humiliating defeat by the Athenians at the Battle of Marathon. For Xerxes, this wasn't just about conquest, it was personal. The ancient historian Herodotus tells us that Xerxes spent 4 years gathering the greatest invasion force in history, planning to march an army across a bridged Hellespont and get his revenge. The numbers from ancient sources are just staggering. Herodotus claimed Xerxes' total force was over 5 million. While modern historians agree that's an exaggeration, the consensus still places the invading army at a colossal 70,000 to 300,000 soldiers. This was a multi-ethnic force, pulled from every corner of an empire that stretched from Libya to Pakistan. Imagine the sight: a river of men, cavalry and chariots, with a fleet of over 1,000 warships shadowing them along the coast. This was the problem facing Greece. And Greece wasn't a unified country. It was a collection of rival city-states, constantly fighting each other. Powerful states like Athens and its navy, and Sparta with its unmatched army, were the heart of a fragile, last-minute alliance. Many other Greek states, seeing the size of Xerxes' army, had already surrendered. The whole idea of Greece, this new concept of a shared culture and a desire to rule themselves, was on the verge of being extinguished. The question wasn't if Persia would conquer Greece, but how fast. The Greek solution: a strategy of genius facing annihilation, the allied Greek city-states came together. They knew meeting the Persians on an open field would be suicide. They needed an equalizer, a place where the Persian numbers meant nothing. The Athenian general Themistocles proposed a brilliant, two-pronged strategy: block the Persian navy at the Straits of Artemisium, and at the same time stop their army at a place called Thermopylae. Thermopylae. In Greek it means the hot gates, named for nearby hot sulfur springs. Geographically, it was the perfect defensive position. It was a narrow pass, with impassable mountains on one side and the sea on the other. In some spots, it was only wide enough for a single wagon. This was the choke point. Xerxes' entire army had to squeeze through it to reach central Greece. It was a place where a small, disciplined force could hold off a massive one, where Persia's cavalry would be useless and their numbers would become a liability, a packed, confused mob of men. Leading the Greek force of about 7,000 men was the Spartan king Leonidas. Spartan society was completely dedicated to military perfection. From birth, Spartans were forged into weapons. Leonidas was to bring 300 of his best, his royal bodyguard. But, as Herodotus notes, there was one condition. He chose only men who already had living sons to ensure their family lines wouldn't die out. These weren't just 300 soldiers, they were 300 fathers. But a crucial and often overlooked fact is that they were not alone. The Greek force also included thousands of others, Thespians, Thebans, Corinthians, and more. This was a united Greek defense. Their core tactic was the hoplite phalanx. Picture men standing shoulder to shoulder, their large round shields, hoplons, overlapping to create a solid wall of bronze. From behind this wall they thrusted with long spears. The Greeks were heavily armored, while the average Persian soldier was lightly armed with wicker shields, short spears, and cloth armor. In the tight space of Thermopylae, the phalanx was a meat grinder. The Persians had no choice but to attack it head-on, playing right into the Greek strength. The Greeks could also rotate fresh troops to the front, preventing exhaustion. It was a carefully calculated strategy designed to turn Persia's greatest strength, its sheer size, into its greatest weakness. The first blood. Xerxes arrived at the pass in late August or early September of 480 BC. For 4 days, he just waited, seemingly in disbelief that such a tiny force would dare to defy him. He sent messengers demanding they surrender and lay down their arms. Leonidas's reply became legendary, Molon Lab, come and get them. Another story captures the Spartan mindset perfectly. A local warned the Greeks that the Persian archers were so numerous their arrows would block out the sun. The Spartan warrior Dionychus is said to have calmly replied, "Good, then we will have shade in which to fight." On the 5th day, Xerxes lost his patience. He ordered the first wave of Medes and Scythians to attack, watching from a throne on a nearby hill, expecting a quick victory. Instead, he witnessed a slaughter. The Persians crashed against the Greek phalanx and were cut to pieces. Herodotus writes that Xerxes leaped from his throne 3 times in terror and fury as he watched his army get mauled. Wave after wave was sent in, and wave after wave was thrown back with horrific losses. The second day was no different. Xerxes, thinking the Greeks must be wounded and exhausted, sent in fresh troops. They failed just as badly. He then committed his elite force, the 10,000 soldiers known as the Immortals, so named because if one fell, another immediately took his place. These were the best soldiers in the Persian Empire. Surely they would break the line. They failed too. In the crush of the pass, their skill meant little against the heavily armored hoplites. Herodotus also tells us the Greeks used clever tactics, faking retreats to draw the Persians in, then turning suddenly to cut them down. By the end of the second day, the ground was choked with the dead, and the Greek line was unbroken. The tactical genius was working, but Xerxes was growing desperate, and desperation can lead to other solutions. The betrayal. This is where the story takes its dark turn, revealing the second secret of Thermopylae, betrayal. As Xerxes fumed in his camp, a man was brought before him. His name was Ephialtes. The movie version of Ephialtes is a deformed Spartan outcast, but that was just for dramatic effect. The real Ephialtes was a local Greek man who knew the mountains around Thermopylae like the back of his hand. His motivation, according to Herodotus, was simple greed. He offered to show Xerxes a hidden path through the mountains that would come out behind the Greek position, expecting a huge reward. This was the Anopeia path, the one major weakness in the Greek defense. Leonidas knew about it and had stationed 1,000 Phocian soldiers there to guard it. But now, Xerxes had the element of surprise. Under the cover of darkness, he sent his immortals, led by their commander Hydarnes and guided by Ephialtes. They marched through the mountain forests. As dawn broke, they reached the summit where the Phocians were camped. The Phocians, hearing the rustle of leaves from a massive approaching force, were caught completely by surprise. After a quick volley of Persian arrows, they panicked and fled up the mountain, thinking they were the main target. They were wrong. The Immortals ignored them, marching past and beginning their descent. The way was now open. The trap was about to spring. Back in the pass, warnings started to trickle in. A seer read the morning sacrifices and declared that death was coming. Then, Deserters from the Persian camp confirmed the terrible news. Finally, as the sun rose, lookouts came running down from the hills. The Persians were behind them. The Greek force was surrounded, the last stand. With the news, Leonidas called a council of war. Their position was lost, defeat was certain. Some argued for a full retreat to save the army. But Leonidas made the decision that would make him immortal. He dismissed the bulk of the Greek army, ordering them to withdraw and save themselves. The military logic was sound. A rearguard was needed to hold off the Persians so the main army could escape to fight another day. If everyone was trapped and slaughtered, the war was over. But Leonidas and his 300 Spartans would stay. For them, Spartan law and their own code of honor forbade retreat. They would stand their ground. But again, they were not alone in this final sacrifice. The 700 Thespians, led by their commander Demophilus, refused to leave, choosing to stay and die with the Spartans. For the city of Thespiae, this was their entire army, an incredible act of heroism that is often forgotten. Around 400 Thebans also remained, though Herodotus suggests their loyalty was in question and they may have been kept as hostages. So the final stand wasn't just 300, but around 1,400 Greeks, facing the full might of the Persian Empire. Knowing they would die, they stopped fighting defensively. They advanced out into a wider part of the pass to meet the enemy head-on, determined to inflict as much pain as possible. What followed was a frenzy of violence. They fought with reckless fury until their spears shattered, then fought with their short swords. In the chaos, Leonidas himself fell. A fierce battle raged over his body, with the Greeks driving the Persians back 4 times to recover their king. Eventually, the survivors were pushed back to a small hill. Hemmed in on all sides, the last of the defenders were killed. Herodotus writes that for those without swords, they fought with their hands and teeth. The battle finally ended with a shower of arrows as the Persians, tired of the heavy losses, finished them off from a distance. Xerxes had his victory, but in a fit of rage, he had Leonidas's body found, his head cut off, and his corpse crucified, an act meant to send a message of terror. The message Greece received, however, was something else entirely. The true secret, a world-changing legacy. And this brings us to the final, most important secret of Thermopylae. The battle was a tactical loss, but it was a massive strategic and moral victory that changed the course of history. The sacrifice was not in vain. The 3-day delay was priceless. It allowed the Greek navy at Artemisium to retreat in good order. It gave the rest of Greece precious time to rally. The Persians had won, but at a huge cost in men and morale. But the biggest impact was on the Greek spirit. The story of the Hot Gates spread like wildfire. It became a rallying cry, a symbol of what free people could do against a tyrant. The courage of the Spartans and Thespians galvanized the fractured Greek states, creating a sense of unity that had never existed before. It inspired the Greek fleet, which a month later won a decisive victory at the Battle of Salamis. The next year, a unified Greek army, with Spartans at its heart, crushed the remaining Persian forces at the Battle of Plataea, ending the invasion for good. Thermopylae didn't save Greece by itself, but it created the idea of Greece. It forged an identity built on freedom, sacrifice, and defiance. For 2,500 years, the story has inspired generations, becoming the ultimate tale of heroic resistance. The traitor Ephialtes' name became the Greek word for nightmare. Leonidas' name became a synonym for courage. And the epitaph for the fallen Spartans, written by the poet Simonides, remains one of the most famous lines in history. Go, tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie. So the secret of Thermopylae isn't just a legend about 300 men. It's a much richer story. It's the secret of tactical genius, of a devastating betrayal, and of how a military defeat became a moral victory so powerful it inspired a civilization. The stand at the hot gates is a timeless reminder that history is shaped not just by who wins, but by the power of sacrifice and the endurance of an idea. What do you think is the most important part of Thermopylae's legacy? The military strategy or the cultural inspiration? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to uncover more secrets from ancient history, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching.